I would like to thank you for coming to this session on Microsoft Forefront Online Protection for Exchange and Office 365, how it makes Office 365 better. This is a level 300 course, and the code for this session is SIM 331. My name is Harpreet Singh Juneja. I'm a program manager in the Forefront Online Protection for Exchange team. I'm joined today with...
I'm Sridhar Chandrasekhar. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. And a couple of logistical points. Feel free to ask questions throughout the session. And if you're close to the mic, please go to the mic so that the people can also hear what you're saying. And if you're farther away from the mic, it's OK. Ask the questions, and one of us will repeat the question. Because we are recording the session, it's easier to for the people who are going to listen later to understand. So go ahead.
So how many people here have used Forefront Online Protection for Exchange? And how many are using Exchange Online as a hosted mailbox? OK, great. So the main agenda for this session is talking about the integration of Forefront Online Protection for Exchange with Exchange Online and Office 365. Giving an overview of how Forefront Online Protection for Exchange works, how it works in inbound and outbound mail flow. We'll do a deep analysis on both the mail flows. Talking about the FOPI Admin Center, that is the administration console which Forefront Online Protection for Exchange offers, and how that admin console is integrated with Exchange Online. Talking about the junk mail management options that you get as an integrated system now with Office 365. And for end-to-end mail control using FOPI connectors. So if you want to control the connection on which you're receiving emails, FOPI has support for that, and how does that get integrated with Office 365. The session objectives would be to understand the FOPI effectiveness, reliability, and robustness, the admin console, the admin center, that is how powerful it is and how well it's integrated with Office 365, and understand the scenarios that FOPI connectors enables. So the presentation is also divided into 4 sections as the 4 first bullets of this slide. We will run through each section and summarize what we did in the previous section as we move ahead. This is the very high level network layout of how FOPI resides in the network in Exchange Online. FOPI is a hosted mail filtering service which will help you reduce mail traffic by more than 90%. It provides protection from common threats such as dangerous worms. It provides protection from directory harvesting and directory attacks. It provides protection from denial of service attacks. It also provides wealth of option to the mail administrator to apply policies and control what's coming into the organization and going out of the organization. And it provides all of this with 0 interruption to email. So even if the largest data center of Forefront Online Protection for Exchange is down, we would still have 0 interruption. The robustness and reliability for FOPI is backed by the global location of its data centers across key locations in internet backbone. It is developed on a fault-tolerant and redundant architecture, and the mail flow is balanced to within data centers and within across data centers and within a data center when the mail reaches that data center. Onboarding to FOPI is very simple. It is you don't need to buy any hardware and provision. You don't need to buy any software to install and configure. You don't need extensive training for the IT staff. It's as simple as changing an MX record and pointing your mail to FOPI to do all the filtering. It's also part of the Exchange eCal and the EECal. For companies that already have that licenses, FOPI is already available to you to use. This slide is an animated slide, and there's a lot of data on this slide. I'm going to drive you through the different layers of defense that FOPI provides for spam or unwanted email to enter into your organization. And you would see that how hard it is for unwanted mail or spam to actually pass through FOPI. So the layers of the mail reaches FOPI as soon as you point your MX record to mail.messaging.microsoft.com. That could redirect to any of our global data centers. The first layer of protection is the edge protection. It's drawn big than the other layers of protection because it rejects more than 90% of the email right there. It constitutes of two main filtering layers, the directory services and IP reputation-based filtering. So IP reputation-based filtering is, we use a lot of in-house and third-party fingerprinting techniques to come up with data mining the bad or spammers IPs. So we create block lists, and we create a block list of IPs which are potential known spammer IPs. Currently, we have 300 million IPs in such lists, and if a mail seems to be coming from one of those IPs, it's blocked right at the edge. Yes?
Do you scan the embedded links and resolve the IPs in embedded links?
Embedded links. The question is, do we scan the embedded links and resolve the IPs in the embedded links? And by embedded links, do you mean attachment links?
No, so if the email content, the message
Yes.
body is HTML,
Okay.
links to malicious and
Yes.
websites.
So the headers are scanned, and the content is scanned based on parameter matching. So if that appears to be one of the known spammer attributes, it's included in the list.
Just so it's clear, on the edge, we don't open the message. At this point in time, the message body has not been opened. So only the IP where it's coming from is looked at. So once it passes the edge, then you will open the message to figure out the headers, the content, and everything else. For your question, at this point, at the edge, we would not have opened the message at all. So that's the whole idea of avoiding 90+% of spam outside before it enters your network.
The second layer at the edge is the DBEB, directory-based edge blocking, or also known as recipient filtering. What it means is that if the mail is intended for a user in your organization which doesn't exist, you don't want that mail. So it's highly recommended that companies upload user list to FOPI so that we know what user should be, what email we should deliver to, and users exist. If they don't exist, we block them or reject them right at the edge. The edge block is not an NDR; it is a 550 protocol reject, which is what we give back. The next level of scanning. So if we pass edge blocking, we know that the email is not from a known IP spammer, and it is intended for somebody in the organization. That is where we do the virus scanning. Virus scanning is the second layer of defense. In virus scanning, we have multiple engines which run on email, its content, and its attachment, and we look for known viruses. FOPI claims 100% detection of all known viruses, and this is achieved by passing every email to via at least 3 engines. So we have multiple engines, and we check in and out those those engines into the system, depending on how they're performing. The virus definition files for all these engines are updated every 15 minutes, and that's how we keep the system upright. If an email with virus is detected, it is trashed at that level, so you are sure that the email never enters into the user's mailbox. The next level of defense is the policy enforcement, which is IT admin driven, I could say, because this is where the admin can control what he wants into the organization and create policy rules. So FOPI provides a wealth of options for an administrator. He can accept, reject, copy, redirect, encrypt, decrypt, or quarantine a message based on what rule got hit. An email that passes policy is known to be an email intended for a user in this organization. It doesn't come from a spammer, and it does not have virus, and adheres to company policy. So the last level of scanning is the spam protection, which is the the deepest level of scanning happens at the spam engines. First level is the safe senders list. This is where users can specify that person X is safe sender for me, and I want to accept the email. So in that case, we would avoid the rest of the layers and pass the mail to the user. The second is the custom spam filters, which are also IT admin-driven policies, but spam-related, which could mean no attachment of type MP3 or IPs with or URLs with IPs in it, or VB scripts in an email. So those are all considered here, and the administrator can choose what to do with it. Fingerprinting engine is related to the question that the gentleman asked there. This is where we have a set of rules. We open up a message and we run. We have 20,000 plus rules out of the 40,000 pool, which are constantly run across each message, which monitor the network patterns and see what whether it's spam pattern or not. And if it is detected to be a spam pattern, the message is quarantined at that level, and those IPs are recorded and fed back to the system, back to the edge. So we are not done yet. We do deliver the email, but if the corporate mail store or the mail servers are down, we do queue the email for 5 days or a limited time, and then deliver it in a throttled manner so that it's not delivered in a chunk. Once delivered, customers can provide feedback, false positive and false negatives, back to the system, which are fed via the spam analyst into the spam protection layer and the IPs, IP reputation layer. FOPI outbound filtering is also similar to inbound filtering, except that it's controlled on the email that is generated by the user and sent out. The question that you would have probably have is, why do we need outbound filtering? Because we are sending email, we should be more worried about what's coming in. It's required for two main reasons. One, the IT admin wants to control what's going out. That's one. The second is that you could have a system in your network which becomes infected, and is generating spam or is generating email, which would end up having your IPs into the block list that other people maintain. And if it shows up, then all email would be blocked. So the chain is something similar. It goes through the virus scanning, multiple engines, at least 3 engines it will run through. It goes through policy enforcement. This is outbound policies, where administrator can control what he wants to send out to the organization. And the third layer is spam protection. It is again score-based. I forgot to mention the inbound and outbound both is score-based, and whenever we hit a higher threshold, we either reject or pass it through. For outbound, any score of less than 300 rules being hit, it's delivered to the outbound pool for delivery. And any score of greater than 300 is sent via the what we call is a high-risk delivery pool. This high-risk delivery pool it's still delivered, but it's very effectively monitored in terms of our IP addresses getting hit in a high-risk delivery pool. If they are, then it's highly potential that we'll end up in block list of other people, which we don't want. So this is fed back via the spam analyst, and we work with.
One second, I just wanted to also make sure that just like we protect the enterprise's IP addresses not getting into block lists, we need to protect our own IP block lists not getting into IP block lists of other companies. Therefore, we need to actually get feedback from the high-risk delivery pool, and we always have spam analysts both in the US and in around the world who look at mail from not only our languages but other languages as well, and get that feedback going in a continuous loop. And we always keep up to date on whether we are on anybody else's block list or not. And it does happen that we do get on some people's block lists and once in a while, and we know how to get out of it very quickly as well. So, and that's one of the reasons why we monitor who is sending mail outside of the organization. knowingly or unknowingly. Sorry, was there a question?
No.
So,
Okay. So we discussed the network layout of FOPI, or a high-level network layout or network positioning of FOPI, and then we discussed the inbound and outbound mail flow and how FOPI adds the layers of defense both in inbound and outbound. And we say it's an enterprise grade, it's fault tolerant architecture, but there should be some numbers to back it up. Now let's talk about the numbers. These are all financially backed numbers. At a high level, the SLAs can be divided into two parts. One is the filtering effectiveness or virus control effectiveness. The second is the network infrastructure effectiveness. So FOPI claims 100% virus protection, known virus protection. This is achieved by having multiple engines, virus definition files getting updated rapidly, and every message passing through at least 3 engines. Greater than 98% spam detection. This is, again, we talked about that it's a rule-based system, and we have 20,000 plus rules against which each message goes through. Plus, administrators can configure what they want, what they don't want in the organization, and what they don't want to leave their organization. So that is achieved. In reality, the number is a little higher than that. 1 in 250,000 false positive is what we claim as well. The network effectiveness is 5 nines, 99.999% uptime. This is achieved by global data centers across multiple locations, and high availability within data centers and across data centers. Rapid email delivery of less than a minute. So whatever we discussed in inbound and outbound, everything is done within 60 seconds. As part of the Office 365 integration, all the virus filtering effectiveness related SLAs are now part of Exchange Online. So this was the first section where we talked about what FOPI does and how do you get mail hygiene related effectiveness with respect to FOPI. Now, how do you control the service? How does the mail IT admin control the service is what this section is. So we'll talk about FOPI Admin Center, which is the administration console for FOPI, and how is it integrated with Exchange Online. So you should have answers to what is FOPI AC, how do you log into FOPI AC, and I'll try to do a live demo, a production demo right now. So customers who have Exchange Online so there are 2 screenshots here on the screen. The left one is Exchange Online or ECP, Exchange Control Panel. Customers who sign up for Exchange Online enter the system via the ECP, Exchange Control Panel. The right-hand side is the FOPI Administrative Console, which you can, once you click the additional security settings on the Exchange Control Panel, you would be taken to the administration console for FOPI. This is a single sign-on experience. Yes? Sorry, it's hard to hear. As on-prem Exchange?
The answer is yes, it is federated, yes. The question was, just so for people who will hear it later, if I have on-prem Exchange, does single sign-on work for getting onto FOPI in the cloud? The answer is yes.
So Exchange Control Panel gives you the functionality of where you can do mail control, where you control your email, you add users, you add groups, you add distribution groups, and you define transport rules. But if you want to do anything related to virus or spam control and apply policies at the content level, you do it in FOPI Admin Center. It is, as I was saying, it is a single sign-on experience from Exchange ECP into Forefront Online Protection for Exchange Admin Center. And all mail hygiene related reports, detailed reports, are generated in FOPI Admin Center. Let me quickly show you how single sign-on works. So I have a demo admin account in WoodGov Branch, which is a hosted, email hosted account. Yeah. Session timed out. That's because I practiced before the meeting started. Start again. So it's portal.microsoftonline.com. It's you log in as an administrator. It shows that you are an admin, and this is where an administrator would. This is Microsoft Online Services. It's not even Exchange Control Panel yet. And once I go into Outlook, this is where the normal mailbox exists for the administrator. Since he is the administrator, he or she should have the access to all the options. Under options, you see manage myself, that is you want to manage your own account, or you can manage my organization. If you click manage my organizations, you see user groups. You can add more mailboxes. These are all online hosted mailboxes. You can assign roles and auditing. Under mail control, this is where you assign transport rules. You see a link to FOPI, Forefront Online Protection for Exchange. Clicking the FOPI link should take you directly into the administration page for that company. The information page is the entry point where you see the reports, the basic reports in terms of delivery accounts, out of which how much was delivered, how much was spam and policy filtered. The spam counts, policy counts, basic reports. The middle section talks about this is common for all companies. It is announcements that FOPI wants to make. Like on May 21st, we will be updating, we will be releasing another release. I think it's 11.1 that's going out on May 21st, and it shows up here. If there is any planned downtime for the admin center access, it shows up here. Network reports is again company specific reports. Administration is the main task tab where the admin would go in and see it's provisioned for, it has all the connectors and the domains. woodgovbrank.o and microsoft.com is the domain. The domain is provisioned for outbound filtering. It says yes. And what are the IP addresses that you want to specify for inbound, for receiving mail. The users, policy rules, filters. Reports is where you could run specific mail hygiene related reports. And tools gives you message trace. So if you want to trace a message, specify sender's address and recipient address, you can trace messages. Audit trails is where you can see all activity that happens for that account.
And in reports, you can also trace a particular message if you wanted, or a set of messages like a wildcard, stardot from this domain, where did I send messages, or I sent this message to this particular person, when was it sent, and when was it received, all of the details. You can trace a single message or a set of messages, or get the report for a whole month or whole week. Stuff like that.
Send from your organization to someone else in your organization. It goes through FOPI. But that report you're describing wouldn't show delivered to the mailbox. Would that just be just FOPI touching it, or would it actually go into the Exchange store and, follow it all the way to the mailbox?
Let me paraphrase the question just so for others. So if I send a message from within my organization to another person within my organization, does it go through FOPI? Was the question. By default, yes, because of the same reason we were saying earlier, which is your machine could have been infected by a botnet, because of which it could be sending viruses across, so because of which we need to go through. However, there is an option to turn it off, meaning don't go through FOPI and bypass filtering. You can do that at an administrator level. And the answer to your tracing question is yes, you can trace that message that went from your mailbox to another mailbox. Yes?
So currently, if I send an email in my organisation, it just goes through the hub. It doesn't go through my edge transport. So why does it go through effectively online edge when you're doing it this way?
Why does it go through online edge?
Yeah.
Sorry, Connor?
So just to answer the earlier question, if you're within the same organization, then mail, corporate internal mail does not go through FOPI. It just stays within your own service area.
What if you have a scenario
Yeah, to the, yeah, yeah. Connor, yeah,
Yes.
that's, so
The hybrid, yeah.
the hybrid scenarios going from one mailbox to another mailbox within the same company, like I could be Johnson & Johnson on-prem versus online, it would go through that. So
The hybrid scenario where you explained on-prem and on-cloud, some mailboxes on-prem, on-cloud, most of the EDUs do that. Foppy provides, I have a slide on that later in the presentation, but we provide both options where you can choose to get all email via Foppy, or you can choose to get mail on-prem and then put it to Foppy. So you have those options.
did that answer your question? Thank you.
Okay, so we saw Exchange Control. We logged into Microsoft Online Services, went into Exchange Control Panel, from Exchange Control Panel to Foppy Admin Center. The question that comes to mind is when to use Exchange Control Panel and when to use Foppy Admin Center. So all domain management and company management for O365 customers happen in Exchange Control Panel. And for Foppy standalone customers who do not have Exchange Control Panel, it will happen in Foppy Admin Center. Message trace within your organization and beyond your organization. So within your organization, you do it in Exchange Control Panel, and beyond your organization, you can do in Foppy Admin Center. Transport rules that are defined in Exchange Control Panel are something similar to adding a disclaimer to an email, or keyword or regular, look for keywords and regular expressions. But if you really want to add transport rules to add a header to a message, say I want to add a hex header to a particular message, that functionality is provided by Foppy Admin Center. So it's the next level of functionality. You want to options of quarantining a message or encrypting a message or decrypting a message is again a rule specified in Foppy Admin Center and not in Exchange Control Panel. The other benefit or other value add or a feature is the Foppy connectors, where you want to control mail flow end to end. Is provided by Foppy connectors, which is available only in Foppy Admin Center. So the permission mapping. So this is important because when you're setting up the system, an admin, there could be many kinds of admin roles for Exchange Control Panel, but all of them do not apply to Foppy Admin Center. Like a billing administrator, there is no role for a billing administrator in Foppy Admin Center. All that is required is a global administrator or a password administrator, somebody who wants to perform mail hygiene related settings. So this is how the permissions mapping happen between Exchange Control Panel and Foppy Admin Center. Global administrator and password administrators would have access. Global administrators would have full control for that organization, and password administrators would have read-only access for that organization. All other administrators in Exchange Control Panel, or all users set up with other admin level access, would not have access to Foppy Admin Center. So I had screenshots on my deck just in case the demo didn't work, but since the demo worked, I'll just run through them. This was the login, and we knew that we are in admin. Exchange Online, under mail control, you see the link. Since we talked about permissions, only global administrators and password administrators would see this link, others will not see this link. And you single sign on into the administration page. This was the section where we covered about the Foppy Admin Center. So we have covered Foppy service as a whole, how it works, what level of security it provides, how do you control or how do you manage that service. In the second section, that was the Foppy Admin Center related section. Now let's talk about what are the junk mail management options that you provide. So the admin has there is an automated way where a mail is directed as spam, and the admin has rules which can make the mail fall in the spam or quarantine folder. So all of that is junk mail, and how do you manage those junk mails? So let's talk about that in this section. So there are 4 options provided for junk mail management. For Office 365 or Exchange Online, junk mail would go in the junk JMF folder, junk mail folder in Outlook or Outlook Web Access. Users can add block senders and save senders, which will be in Outlook and work in Outlook. There is no concept of spam notification required for Outlook JMF folder because there is a ticker that appears in the folder in Outlook. I have a screenshot for that, a blue number that appears whenever the number goes up. So there is no requirement for a notification to be sent because everything is in one place. Spam quarantine is the second option that is provided. The options can be changed in FOPI Admin Center, where you can specify which of the options you want. Spam quarantine is an option where the mail never ends up to the user. It's always there in an online store, and you can access it using quarantine.messaging.microsoft.com. There is notification channel built for that. Since a user has received an email and it's stored in an online store, we need to notify the user that you have some mail pending for you. Administrators have greater control over spam quarantine as well. They can choose the notifications to be either text, HTML, the period of notification 3 to 14 days, or every day if you have directory-based edge blocking or recipient filtering on. And they can also allow users to have access to quarantine.messaging.microsoft.com. If they do not want to give users, they can choose that as well. So the notification that the users will receive, then in that case will not have a URL pointing to the location. And the users will also not have access to that location. Block senders list and safe senders list is not available in spam quarantine because that's local. It's not sent to FOPI yet. The other two options are listed as the two bullet items there. Spam redirection, where an IT admin can go into the system and specify an email address where the spam should be redirected to, and subject modification. Subject modification is where a mail detected as spam adds some specific string to the subject and deliver it to a particular email address. You want to show? Okay. Let me see if I can show you the options where it's set. Spam actions. So this is under the domains tab. So same organization, under the domains tab, you will see the domain that is registered for that company. You can have multiple domains. And under service settings, there is something called spam action. You can edit that, and these are the 4 options that you can specify. You can modify a subject, you can quarantine the mail, you can redirect to another address, or you can add an X header. The X header is the default option. So X FOSI spam is what the exchange would treat it as spam. So if you add this X header to any email going to exchange online, it would end up in a junk mail folder. Okay, so this is the default option, the junk mail management. OVA or Outlook Web Access or Outlook clients, it's very simple to just, if you find a mail that is you want it to be classified as spam, you right click. There's an option, a lot of options. Second last option is junk, and you can block the sender. This is the block senders list or the safe senders list, which is maintained in Outlook or OVA. This is the second option we talked about, the spam quarantine option, where it's an online store accessed via quarantine.messaging.microsoft.com. And this is how it appears. You can choose to release a message, or the admin can choose to release a message for you. Access to quarantine.messaging.microsoft.com is also single sign-on for the admins. They single sign-on into the admin center, and admin center has single sign-on to quarantine. So it works transparently for the admins. Yes? Only addressed to them. So the question was whether the user who has access to quarantine.messaging.microsoft.com sees all the messages and has access to all the messages, or sees only their own messages and access to that. The answer is that they see their own messages, and they can choose to release it if the admin has given them the rights to do that. So this was the junk mail management options section, where we talked about how junk mail management happens in FOPI. And the last section is, yes?
I don't currently have Forefront. I'm using Exchange 2007 on-premise Edge. Can I specify using Forefront Online or Forefront
Yep.
on-premise, block all zips to all addresses except this one?
I didn't get the question. This server here is making a lot of noise.
Can you block all zip files to the whole, to all of the email addresses in the organization except one?
So the question is,
The question is?
the question is, can I block all emails from a particular domain except one?
No. Can I block all emails containing zip files except if they're sent to a particular address internally?
All emails containing
Yeah.
something which needs to be blocked, except one email coming from some particular user or something.
Yes. Like
User or domain?
It'd be done with two policies, right? It can be done with
Two
two policies. One policy that says block everything that contains this, and another policy that says from this particular person, bypass this. So,
And if you want to do it via on the domain level, it's much easier.
yeah.
And this is what this section is on. Okay. So FOPI connectors, the fourth section here. So till now, what we discussed was all related to email having, or I want to manage the content of the email. I want to act on the content of the email. But if I want to take security to the next level or to the next level of having security on a connection, I want to have a particular connection with, say, TLS, or I want to safe list, like the lady pointed out, I want to safe list a particular domain and do nothing for that domain. I trust that domain. Or I want to pass emails via my on-prem after it's done filtering, or outbound emails also generated from cloud, but it should go via on-prem in my enterprises. So all those scenarios are available via the use of FOPI connectors. So FOPI connectors provide you the granular end-to-end mail flow control that go beyond the content of an email and acting on the content. You can actually do it at the connection level. And we'll talk that in detail. So there are two types of FOPI connectors available, inbound connectors and outbound connectors. And the inbound connectors are used for emails sent to your domain, outbound connectors for emails sent from your organization to the outside world. The levels of control provided by inbound connectors are at the connection level. So you can control a source IP or a source domain. You can specify what kind of protection do you want, whether it should be an opportunistic TLS or a forced TLS, and whether what kind of filtering do you want to apply on that connection. Spam, you want to skip spam, you want to apply policy, you want to skip policy, or you want to skip both. All of that on a particular connection level. Outbound connector is something similar, where you specify the outbound connector domain, which domain you want to apply this to, the security, forced TLS or TLS, and delivery, whether it should be a smart host or an MX record you want to deliver it to.
1 second.
Yes.
Just so, how many of you know what is an opportunistic TLS versus a forced TLS? A couple of you know. Just for the others, so opportunistic TLS is use transport layer security when it's available on the receiving end. And forced TLS, which means I will use it if it's available. If it's not available, I'll fall back to normal mail. On the other hand, forced TLS means I will only send that email if the recipient supports it. If the recipient doesn't support it, I'm not going to. So both options are available. So that's the difference between forced TLS and opportunistic TLS.
Yeah, yes, opportunistic TLS is by default.
By default, yeah.
And I'll do a deep dive into a scenario, a banking scenario where an organization wants to talk to a bank, and it's a very common scenario that we get nowadays, is that they want a forced TLS on that connection always. So I'll dig into that as well. So this is the FOPI connector. So we talked about layers of control you have on connection security and filtering for inbound, and outbound you have on connection security and delivery, smart host or MX record. The let's talk about how connectors help providing the flexibility and control for mail routing. So these are, I've captured 3 scenarios here, which is Contoso is the organization I work for, and they trust NW traders, and they do high business impact transactions with NW traders. They want a forced TLS connection for outbound and inbound with NW traders. You can do that right now with FOPI connectors. Litware.com is another trusted partner where they know which domain and IP address Litware.com sends emails to, and they just want to skip all filtering for that domain or IP address. That's available via the inbound safe listing scenario, and we'll talk about each one of these in detail in the next 3 slides. The last one is a compliance, more of a compliance ask in the industry where companies want their email to go via a industry standard DLP appliance, or they have lease line set up with different partners and they want email to flow via their lease line or TLS line. This outbound smart host is where we can specify that mail should go via a appliance sitting in the on-prem environment to all external emails.
Couple of additional scenarios of outbound smart host is from a compliance perspective. I could be a finance company where all my transactions for federal reasons might have to be archived somewhere for 7 years or whatever not. So it could go there and get it archived and sent. So any such scenario, whether it or a student, I could be a student. My mailbox could be in the cloud, and my university wants to track me where I send mail. So it could also go through a particular smart host. So there are tons of scenarios where you want to send mail through a particular smart host, and so finance, school, and many others.
So let me discuss these 3, and there I have a reference to another section, which is a deep dive connection only related session. I'll talk about that later in the slides, which will talk about many more scenarios. But I'll concentrate only on these 3 to show you how flexible connectors make FOPI to become. I'll start bottoms up. This is the outbound smart host scenario. This is the case where a company wants all email to go via an on-prem DLP appliance, or an encryption appliance, or you want to do an address rewrite. That is another scenario. Having a leased line between 2 different companies is a same outbound smart host scenario. Here, FOPI acts as a smart host, and you can set up an outbound connector. I will show a demo of that as well. You can set up an outbound connector where all email goes through FOPI and then is sent back to Contoso.com for compliance purposes. Inbound safe listing scenario. This is the one where we said that Litware.com is a trusted party, and we trust the IP address and the domain that we are receiving an email on. FOPI can configure an inbound connector, which will skip IP scanning, the edge IP reputation-based scanning for Litware.com for that example. In this case, it's Fabricam sending email and Contoso receiving it. So all email from Fabricam, if it's via the inbound connector, we can choose to skip policy and spam as well. But by default, inbound safe listing scenario would skip IP safe listing for Fabricam.com. Yes, we don't. The virus filtering for Exchange Online happens at on-prem in the forefront protection for Exchange running on-prem servers in Exchange. So forced TLS scenario, this is the first one in the earlier slide, which is a banking scenario where Contoso and Woodgrove Bank do high business impact transactions, and they want it to be over a forced TLS connection. In this case, opportunistic TLS is on by default, but if the customer chooses to enforce forced TLS and reject email if forced TLS is not established, we can set up 2 connectors, inbound and outbound, and force TLS on either one of them, and choose to reject messages if the connection is not secure. The question is, does the sender get notified whether the message is rejected? NDR? NDR, right? Yeah, this is not a product. Yeah, an NDR.
Why would you not want to enforce it if
I'm
sorry. And
I
then-
didn't-
Scenarios where you won't do it. You might have some scenarios where some people you do business with don't have TLS and they might have an exchange server. If you enforce it, then they're never going to get the heat.
But aren't you enforcing TLS between your hub transport and forefront? Outside of forefront is where those people will come to. Those people will send an email to forefront and then that will come into your forefront into hub transport. Between your hub transport and forefront, you want that to be encrypted.
Yeah, but this is talking about from when it leaves forefront to
I
destination.
understand.
Sorry, I think it got resolved already. This particular device is making a ton of noise, so it's not very easy to hear. Sorry.
Okay, let me show you the same. So I didn't time out, thank you. So connectors are available at company level, but they can be applied to one domain or multiple domains. This is a demo account, and we do have secure business channel inbound and secure business channel outbound. This is the Force TLS connector that is available. This is set up. Let me make it. Yeah. Strange, the edit. It should pop up.
Create a new one. Then log in again is what he said. It must have timed out. Screen shown, but it's not active.
Yeah, it's strange. Yep, there you go. So outbound connector, secure business channel. Here we specify the other bank, the recipient domain, otherbank.com. And in this case, we can specify a recipient certificate matches. This is not a forced. So okay, this is not a forced TLS. We are not forcing TLS on this one. But we can specify if certificates, both of them have shared certificate, third-party shared certificates, and if they match. Let me show you this one. Yeah, secure business channel, inbound connector. In this case, otherbank.com is an inbound connector. Message is coming from otherbank.com via this IP address. We safe list that IP address so that we skip IP reputation based scanning for them, and we force TLS on this connection. We choose to apply policy filtering, and we can choose to apply spam filtering as well. We can skip both of them for this bank if required.
Excuse me,
Yes.
what if you don't know the IP address? Do you have to put that in there?
No, you can specify the domain. Yes.
You can just use the domain?
If you specify the IP address, then you can reject all messages from the other IP address, but from that domain.
Okay.
So if somebody spoofs that domain, you still have control if you know the IP addresses.
It just gives you an additional level of granularity and to control. That's all.
Right, but you don't always know their IPs.
This is the trusted partner safe listing scenario that we talked about. We specify partner.com and the IP address, and we can skip safe listing for this IP address. So that is okay. So there is an interactive session on Thursday where we will be doing more of, this is more of showing what is already created, but we'll be creating connectors and passing mail through the, via those connectors and making sure those policy rules and connectors get hit. So again, I had screenshots just in case the demo didn't work, but I just passed them through. So there are videos available on how to create connectors and the use of connectors in TechNet. So I wanted to point that out. Yes, ma'am. Yes. let me go.
How does it know? You normally have Adam, so how does it know that person exists in your organisation? How are you doing the Active Directory bit?
I didn't get that. Can you please repeat? Yes.
Oh.
The question is, how do you sync up users with some of your on-premise services?
Oh, yes.
Is this?
It's about directory sync. How do I synchronize users from my company into your system?
Okay.
Oh, there are multiple ways of directory synchronization that we allow. You can use our directory sync tool that we provide, which takes all of the users and puts it in our system so that at the edge we can use that and reject mail that doesn't belong to your company. You can do secure FTP and give us a comma-separated value list. So there are 3-4 different ways of you providing user addresses to our system so that we can take that and keep that and use it.
And that's part of Forefront Online, is it?
It's part of FOPI, yes, Forefront Online Protection for Exchange.
So I was still thinking in terms of connectors, and I didn't get the question. Sorry about that. But there are 5 different ways in which you can provide. I won't say users. I would say mail-enabled objects, as the more technical term. It could be distribution groups which you want to receive because they are not users. They are mail-enabled objects. So DST, Directory Sync Tool, is what she was mentioning about. So there are 2 versions of Directory Sync tools currently available. I would recommend you to use 9.1. That is one way. It's an automated. It runs on the Exchange server. It's a background process. Any change in Exchange server mailbox, it would send it to FOPI transparently. It just runs as a background job. You have secured FTP, which can be, if you are not using Exchange on-prem, you could build a workflow which triggers secured FTP, and the file reaches us. There are 2 more. Admin Center has comma-separated value upload available. You can upload a file, or you can go into Admin Center and add a user. For Exchange Online, you could add a user in Exchange Control Panel.
You said the Active Directory Sync tool goes on your Exchange server, not on your Active Directory server.
Sorry?
The Active Directory Sync tool goes on your Exchange server.
Yes, on the AD box. Active Directory Sync, yes, that's what it does.
It goes on the Exchange server.
Where does it run? Where does the directory sync tool run? Is what the question
AD
is.
box. Yeah. So this was the inbound connectors screenshot and the outbound connector. I think I didn't show you this one, but it was the outbound smart host scenario. Yeah, the outbound smart host scenario where we wanted to pass through a DLP appliance on-prem. Here you could see that we specify the FQDN to be mail.contoso.com. So it goes back to, I don't have this connector set up. It's a screenshot. This is the DLP appliance scenario where FQDN is set to mail.contoso.com. So the mail goes back to on-prem for DLP. So reporting of connectors. So if you want to know which connector got hit for a message, it's within reports, we looked at message trace earlier. If you run a message trace for a report, you would see the connector ID showing up against that message trace now, which would show that this connector got hit. Yes?
Sorry, back to the directory sync tool.
Okay.
That requires federation to set up those first, correct?
No, that requires the admin to log in via the directory sync tool.
This is the same nursing tool that we use for Exchange, Office 365 Exchange.
So this is a different tool.
This is our own.
This is a FOPI tool. So in your environment, you would be running a directory sync. It's called MSO DIRSync to sync users into Microsoft Online directory store. You could run another DIRSync which sends users to FOPI. If you have directory-based edge blocking enabled for that company, yes, FOPI should know the mail-enabled objects. Not yet.
Not in this version, but we are working on integrating that next year.
So, yeah.
What was the IDC tool called for FOPI to on-premise?
Sorry? The Exchange Online tool is called MSO DIRSync, DIR sync. The FOPI tool is called DST, Directory Synchronization Tool. 9.1.
DST, Directory Sync Tool, is ours, which is FOPI's, and MSO Directory Sync, Microsoft Online Directory Sync is the BPOS, Office 365.
So going forward, it would be an integrated experience where you would be running only one tool. Okay, connector reporting, and so we have 20 minutes, but I just have 2 more slides, and then we can open it up for more discussion. But mail routing options, there was a question earlier in the presentation that what are the options of mail routing for a hybrid scenario, where hybrid scenario is where mailboxes exist on-prem and on-cloud. This is a very common scenario we see with universities nowadays, where they want to keep staff mailboxes on-prem and student mailboxes want to be pushed on cloud. So in those scenarios, FOPI provides both options. The both options are they can choose to point all email to on-prem, and when a mailbox is transferred to on cloud using the tools provided by Exchange Online, the Exchange already knows how to redirect the mail to the cloud. In that case, the antivirus and anti-spam filtering provided by FOPI will happen after the message has passed through on-prem. So customers have that option. Customers also have the option where they can point all mail to the cloud, and FOPI would redirect on-prem back to the premises. In this case, antivirus and anti-spam settings are done in the cloud, so mail traffic is reduced drastically up there in the cloud, and only wanted mail is sent to the premises. Message and recipient limits. This is again an important topic. Why do we need limits? We need limits because we don't want the platform to act as a spam factory and people generating spam from this platform. So we do have limits. The limits are 25 MB as a maximum size for the message, and for distribution groups, the size is 2 MBs. Large distribution groups is defined as 5,000 plus recipients. 500 recipients per message is what you can add, and maximum of 1,500 recipients per day, and a message rate of 30 messages per minute.
Is that 500 envelope limit graceful?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Was the question, is this a reasonable?
The 500 envelope limit, can that be changed
Yes.
to a higher count?
No, the top one can be changed.
These limits cannot be raised. The top ones cannot be raised. The second
yeah.
one, the 500
Yeah.
recipients.
Yeah, that can be.
What happens if you have more than 30 messages a minute? Do they get queued?
30 messages per minute.
Right.
So if you try to send more than 30 messages per minute, the system will.
But the system will change the rate of delivery.
Yeah. It will automatically
throttle.
adjust and throttle. It will start throttling the messages, because at that point in time, the flag goes up saying that it could be a potential spammer sending mail, because usually people don't send that many mails per minute. So, and then we'll start throttling and figure out whether you're indeed a spammer or not. Sorry, Connor.
Per user per minute.
Per user per minute, yes. Yes. It's not for the organization, I'm sorry. If that was, yes. Thank you, Connor, for clarifying that. So it is per user in the organization per minute can send 30 messages. So typically what happens is when a botnet takes over your system, it starts sending 3,000 messages or so per minute, and then we calculated and found out that 30 was a reasonable number to allow. And so.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to begin migrating our on-premise notes environment to Office 365 Exchange very soon.
Very good.
And we're going to be using some binary tree tools to migrate these messages to the mailbox for our users.
Mm-hmm.
Will that route through FOPI? And if so, will that throttling occur as we're trying to migrate large numbers of messages via that process?
That is a mailbox move. That
It's
will
not a message move. That's a
Yeah.
mailbox move. Yeah.
It's a on-prem or it's a mailbox setup. So in that case, it will not. This is inbound or outbound messages received for that user.
Yeah. So
If you're using the tools provided by Exchange Online, then it
Using binary tree.
binary trees.
so
We're not coming from Exchange.
you're going from nodes to Exchange. So it's a migration. So what happens is your mailboxes will be migrated. Once you migrate the mailboxes, then when you start sending messages, then it will go through our system. So when you're just moving mailboxes, it's just a mailbox move.
Yeah, it should be smooth.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, when you're migrating now, it's we get informed and we get provisioned, if you want to call it that, because at the end of the day, every mailbox that goes through our system needs to be provisioned per tenant. So you're a new company, this company got provisioned and this many seats are there and so on and so forth. That information needs to be passed to us, and Exchange does pass that to us.
Okay, additional resources. So there is a downloadable 7 GB downloadable VM environment that you can go to. The forward link ID is 190269. It's 190269, and you can download this zip package, which contains, I think, 10 or 12 VMs, and each of them have, the topology looks like something like this, and each of them have lab manuals in terms of how to help you set up lab exercises for all 4 front products. So if it's on-prem, 4front, endpoint protection, 4front, FPE, FIM, FEP, this is the environment to go to. Related, so there are other sections, other sessions related to FOPI, and I have listed them here on this slide. We have an interactive session on Thursday morning at 10:15, which is SIM 378, where we would be doing some demos, and it would be more interactive. So, if you have other deep dive related questions, you can come on and we can discuss that. SIM 334 is Exchange deep dive, where we will be talking about connectors in detail.
Connor is presenting that at 5 today. So, it will go into a lot more details about how FOPI works with Exchange. Sorry, please go ahead.
About TLC encryption connectors. If you're connecting from your hub to FOPI, are you using an inbound TLS encryption or are you using an edge encryption?
Let me try to paraphrase the question so that I understand. So, inbound and outbound, we support TLS. And you're asking, like, if I have a certificate, can I use that certificate to encrypt? No.
I have a hub transport on-premise to FOPI in the cloud. Do I use an edge subscription?
What do you mean by an edge subscription, just so that I am clear?
At the moment, I have an edge server on-premise, and I have a hub edge transport subscription. Is that the same if you're putting full front of the cloud?
It's not exactly the same. This is a whole product which not just provides the edge, but it also provides spam, virus, and policy filtering, in addition to the edge filtering.
Connect the hub to full front of the cloud. Via connector or via a subscription?
I'm not. Sorry, Connor. Do you have
I don't know.
with that?
Same question or?
Yeah, because that.
How do I get mail from the hub transport server to FOPI?
No, you can. You don't need a connector for it. You can just
So
get a FOPI subscription and get mail flowing through it.
So FOPI,
Once you get the subscription, then you can use
no, I think,
connectors or not.
I think the question is that how does FOPI know which IP to receive email from, right? That is what the question is. So how do you want to connect your hub to FOPI, right? So FOPI, when you set up a company and you set up a domain, under domain level, you specify the inbound and outbound IP addresses that you want to trust, or you should be receiving an email from. So that is what your hub address would be in that case for that domain.
And that's a TLS encrypted connection.
That would be a connector.
Be a connector.
Yeah, so you apply that connector on that IP address or that domain to be a forced TLS if you want that to be forced TLS.
If that hub happens to support TLS.
If that hub happens to support TLS, yes. So it's the first thing is provisioning. It's basically bringing that up, bringing your mail to FOPI. That is what the first exercise is. Second is an advanced routing feature that you want to apply forced TLS on that connection.
So you get the subscription first and then use whether a regular channel or TLS channel later
I don't know what you mean by a subscription. A subscription.
for FOPI. the product, you have a you have mailboxes, and FOPI is a product which is sold as a service, standalone or as part of Office 365. So if you have Office 365, you have mailboxes in the cloud anyway, and FOPI is supported as part of that already. Or if you have mailboxes on-prem or through Notes or any other mechanism, you can purchase FOPI as a service and then point your MX record to us, and we will filter mail for you.
So a subscription is just purchasing the service.
Exactly.
Sorry, my confusion was when you connect an on-premise hub to an on-premise edge, you create a hub edge subscription, which is a technical term.
Oh.
When you buy something.
Oh, no, this was, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, got it.
That was the, yes, got it.
There's no such thing as a exchange subscription in this scenario.
No, it's not. It's,
Just using connectors.
yes.
Yes. Provisioning the company first and then using connectors. I
Yes.
would say, yes. If you, yep, no, okay. So if you still have questions, yes.
So you have your quarantine on the cloud, or have it go straight to the user's Outlook junk mail folder?
Your junk mail folder is the default option
Default.
provided to Exchange Online.
Yeah.
And the other option, the spam quarantine, is mostly used. It's the most used by all standalone customers which use FOPI as a service alone and not Exchange Online. More than 95% people use spam quarantine, put it on the cloud.
So all the spam that is quarantined will be available in the cloud. An admin can look at all of them, or if you're a single user, whatever you are authorized to look at, you can look at, and then release them as this is not really spam, it's proper mail, or you can say, yeah, it is indeed spam and it gets deleted.
And there's a feedback mechanism then to go through the copy, right?
Very much, yes. If you are using quarantine, we take that feedback to say, oh, whether it's a false positive or a false negative, and that's how we keep our block lists up to date. And sometimes our algorithms could have gotten a regular mail as spam because it had too many links or some such thing, and you can say, no, it was not really spam, it was actually good mail. Then we will tweak our algorithms appropriately.
That feedback would only work in a hosted mailbox scenario. It wouldn't work when you have copy with an exclusive prem exchange environment, right?
No, it would work in the.
Why would it not?
I'm wondering whether the connection of the information flow from an on-prem exchange environment from the Outlook client to then all the way through to the edge of the copy solution.
If we, sorry, Connor, did you?
Yes.
Basically, taking the most important scenario, so
Right,
you just have your own mail server.
right,
You want to get information back from Microsoft about spam,
right,
false positive. We've got something that's spam and it's not,
right.
or false negative.
Exactly.
There are two email addresses and it's the same.
Oh, it's not automated.
And as long as you put the internet headers from the message, make sure they're included,
Right.
forward slash headers, you can mail use@microsoft.com, and that's a false negative, and false underscore positive Microsoft.com, or false positive. So completely independent.
Yep. It is part of the service that we provide. It is part of the service that we provide. Like Connor said, false underscore positive or false underscore negative at our email address. If you send it, we track that and we use that information appropriately.
It's an automated system, but it makes more sense.
It all goes into the same pool,
Yeah.
into the same set of analysis, and it also ways with the Outlook plugin and with the quarantine,
Right.
we have the context, so we can quarantine that.
Cool. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
How do you charge for this? Is it per mailbox, per megabyte?
FOPI as a service is available to you as part of Office 365 subscription. If you get that mailboxes in the cloud along as part of Exchange Online or Office 365, you get FOPI for free as part of that. Or if you want to purchase FOPI separately, it is seat-based. We have different, of course, offers, most of which maps to number of seats that you purchase. I think there is one of the talks, probably Microsoft Forefront, yeah.
worker?
Yeah,
Business?
maybe 326 goes into a little more detail on that.
Yeah. It is a business group related question. So if you can send me an email, I'll make sure that I connect you to the right person who can provide you all the licensing information.
Yeah, and it depends on like the number of seats, and it is bucket based. So,
But if you
So
have
many
Exchange on premise also, it's part of eCal and eEcal. So you might have FOPI
you
already.
may have already gotten it as part of the
It's
Exchange
just not configured.
Cal license or enterprise. There is another thing called eEcal, Enterprise Exchange Cal, and so you may also have that. If that is the case, you have FOPI as well as included as part of that.
I just, I mean, to start at the beginning, you to set this up to point from the outside, you just set your MX records, your SPF records, you point your hub, and that's it.
That's it.
Yes.
This whole service is completely in the cloud, and that's why it's super simple. And more than 90% of the mail is typically spam, so we get filtered that out so that you don't have to have that many on-prem servers and to process all the mail and so on.
One additional thing which you didn't talk about was you can run the directory sync tool on your
That is if you want directory-based. Yeah. Otherwise, people could be directory harvesting and trying to say A, B, C, D, or A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Search for FOPI directory sync tool download. It'll come up as first.
Yeah.
On page.
Cut down the amount of spam too.
Any other
Any-
questions?
yeah. So my email address is there on the slide deck. It's hsj@microsoft.com. And if you have any further questions, you can send me an email, and I'll make sure I get the answer, or I point you to the right person who has the answer.
Thank you so much for taking time to attend the session, and let us know if you have any questions at all.